I'm the son of a firefighter in our county. Back in the 50s and 60s in Lawrence County, a lot of communities didn't have emergency services, so these fire departments were forming. So I grew up in the fire service, and when I became adult, I became a second generation firefighter in the community of Rome Township, where I served for a number of years. And that kind of got me interested in emergency services, managing emergencies, the concept of public information, and quite frankly, grant writing and bringing more funding into this county for emergency services, because that was very much needed in the 60s and 70s as the fire service was developing in our county. So there came an opportunity for me one time to write a grant. The county was in the process of transitioning from the old emergency numbers to the 911 system, 1996, 97 era. And I was young in the fire service back then, but I learned about a device called a 911 call simulator. And it's a suitcase-sized device that you're able to take around to public events and schools and teach people what happens when you call 911, what type of questions you should expect, and how people should respond. So I wrote the grant. State Farm, out of their home office in Granville, Ohio, awarded us the first 911 call simulator ever given to a rural area in the state of Ohio, and we got it in our county. So I started just as a volunteer firefighter, connecting with the 911 director at the time, who was Don Moots, a very good man who helped get the 911 center off the ground in our county, and going around to school systems and teaching kids about 911 and how to call for an emergency and what would happen if they did that, and the types of questions that they would need to answer. And so that kind of kicked off my interest and knowledge of the county's version of emergency management. So there came a time when there was a position open to apply for emergency management, and that's how I was hired into the Emergency Management Agency as a deputy director at the time. And that was 1999 when that happened. So it's been a great profession, honestly. I get to talk and meet and interact and work with some of the most wonderful people on the face of the earth, as far as I'm concerned. People from every agency, from local to emergency response, all the way to the federal level, and people who know their jobs well and who have a similar mission as mine, is to assist people and to carry out the programs that they're kind of awarded in this life to do. Well, a lot of folks would remember the civil defense era in this country, the Cold War, where people were taught to prepare for a nuclear war and have their provisions in the basement. And then this community, even and all communities throughout the United States, were full of civil defense shelters. And of course, as that kind of faded, the profession changed to more of a disaster services, which was more of an all hazards approach to emergency management. And so the profession in our county mainly was staffed by, we had a full-time secretary back then, I think, for civil defense, who kind of moved into disaster services. But part-time directors, and dealing mainly with natural disasters. Flooding particularly is the biggest challenge in our county. So as you can imagine, we have a lot of challenges with the terrain that we have with flooding. But anyway, those types of all hazards approach to emergency management began to develop. And so again, another milepost would have been the 9/11 event. So life really changed for emergency managers after that. A lot of agencies had become known as emergency management agencies within the county, but also the Homeland Security role came into effect. So we were blessed, or whatever you want to say, with assessing and then managing all that federal money that came pouring into communities for preparedness, so that we could be prepared for chemical, nuclear, radiological, biological, explosive events. So CBRN, they call it. So again, I mean, the focus is still for emergency management on all hazards, and of course on the day-to-day, it's preparedness and planning and preparation. A lot of responsibility. FEMA is the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and each state has a state emergency management agency. Some of them call them emergency services, some of them call them Office of Emergency Management. It's all the same thing. It came from the federal Stafford Act, which established emergency management agencies in states and in communities. And then in the state of Ohio, there are 88 counties, each with an emergency management agency, and I happen to be it in Lawrence County. So I'm the sole employee right now of emergency management in Lawrence County. Although I'm the only one, I liken it unto, particularly when a disaster is taking place, it's kind of like the having the symphony playing, and all the instrumentalists come together, and somebody has to kind of be the conductor. So, I mean, that's the role I kind of step into. It's good mainly because we have a lot of great people. I mean, this county is full of people that know their job, and they have a heart to help people. And to bring all those people together and have them working together to address all the crazy things, the chaos that occurs during a disaster, it's really a wonder to see how it all transpires when we're in emergency operations. Of course, it's very much in the forefront of people's knowledge right now, and remembrance is the COVID pandemic. It just shut the world down, but nevertheless, we, in person and virtually from this room, were managing response to COVID. And so federal and state assets and local, Armstrong Cable even helped us out with some PPE at the time, because we were dealing with the unknown. We didn't know how the pandemic was going to affect our community, but we had to prepare for things that we weren't even aware of what was going to happen. So a tremendous amount of logistical coordination, and public health, of course, was great in our county, and they took the lead, and our health commissioner and the folks in the public health did a great job. But they worked from here, and we coordinated with them on a daily basis, multiple times, and getting information out to people on how to protect themselves, how to protect their neighbors. Another example in people's recent memory is probably the ice storm we had a couple years ago that shut down portions of our county. And at one point, up to 90% of our population was without electrical power because of the impact on the transmission system, the electrical transmission system, and it was just a mess for weeks. Even our population is so resilient. What we saw out in the county was amazing. Neighbors helping neighbors, and community people jumping in, helping to clear roads and move things along. But nevertheless, there are those challenges that those folks can't do, and that's dealing with utilities, huge debris and trees down on the road, and what's going to happen if we don't get those cleared out of the way. And when you have an event like that, the power company can't restore the power until they can get to the damaged areas. And they can't get to the damaged areas until the public works people clear the highways. Well, they can't clear the trees until the electrical company makes sure the power is off. So what happens then? Those people have to get together. They have to talk. They have to coordinate. They have to map. They have to work together to get that done. And that's exactly what happened when that event took place. So again, we're just blessed with some really great people who get it, who understand the concept of working together and being a team and making things happen in our county. I mean, we've come a long way. We're in a wonderful facility here. and a multi-million-dollar facility with all the technology that we have built in here. And the building began its life as a car dealership, probably back in the 80s, and went out of business and just was a U-Haul dealership. I mean, it's been through the gamut of things that it could have been, and here we landed here. You know, we were able to move up here and move all of our services out of a building that was built in 1926 in Lawrence, right behind the jail. And EMS moved up here first and got started. And right at the beginning of the pandemic, and in fact March of 2020, I came up here and started working, and our 911 center was still in transition at the time, trying to get established up here, because you can't just unplug a radio here and go take it up to another building and plug it in, and all of a sudden you're on the air. There's a lot involved in changing a whole communication system for a county. But yeah, I mean, we're all here now. We're operational. You know, we're co-located with the 911 center. Our EMS is headquartered in this building. The coroner has an office here. The sheriff's office has a presence here. So we're here together to work together to serve the people of our county, and it's a great experience. It really has been. I feel like the luckiest guy in the world to be able to have a facility like this and be able to do what we've done just within the last 5 years in our county to advance our capacity to reach out and help people. It's great. We're still working to make improvements in the building and developing technologies, and just with the goal of making it better for the county, to be able to reach out like we can, just take advantage of what we can afford to do as a county, and reach forward and just be motivated to help more. I think the public is more aware now than they've ever been of some of the risks that are maybe can threaten their community, and that's the starting point of being prepared, is realizing what can affect me. You can't prepare for something that you know, that you're not aware of. But if you recognize that you're in a flood area, or various flooding can take place and cut off certain roads, then you can kind of prepare for that. So we encourage families to always be prepared within themselves. That's the first level of preparedness as a family, an individual, a family. There may be events happen where the professionals, the emergency folks, they can't get to you for 2 or 3 days. So a family should be prepared, you know, a minimum of 72 hours to have a disaster supplies kit, to be prepared to take care of their family, to exist basically until someone can get to them and help them. So the information sharing is much better now than it's ever been. And you can attribute that really to you know, the availability of information and the method of distributing information. So at any point during the day nowadays, you don't have to wait until the evening news to find out what's going on in the other part of the world. You just pick up your phone and the information's right in front of you. Nowadays, you know, especially since 9/11 and within the last 10 to 15 years, colleges, higher education, colleges and universities have developed programs for homeland security and emergency management. It's available. It's available for folks. So if you're interested in a career where you help people, where you have some advancement, and quite frankly, you get some fulfillment from, you know, a profession where you're able to reach out and assist people in your community, and you want to give your heart to community service, so to speak, emergency management is a field that someone should look at and generally consider. It might start with becoming a volunteer in with the American Red Cross, for example. Some of the private nonprofit agencies, that the Salvation Army, all those folks that help, and those are all part of the emergency management umbrella, I would say. voluntary organizations active in disaster, VOAD. Folks should look at that. What is voluntary organizations active in disaster? There are hundreds of organizations, a lot of those faith-based, that assist communities after disaster, because the federal government's not going to come in and make you whole. They're not going to be able to come in. Local government's not going to be able to make you whole. It's the cooperation of all of those elements of emergency management. Emergency management's bigger than I am. It's bigger than you are. It's bigger than any one agency. It's the coordination of help of agencies that come together and help people. So a lot of opportunities out in the community. Become a volunteer firefighter, receive EMT training, go to law enforcement training, again, volunteer with organizations that help people. If that's your heart, if you feel like that's your calling, there are plenty of opportunities to do that in each community. It's a good thing. It really is. It's just an incredible number of different directions you can go when you talk about emergency management. Because like I said, we literally touch every aspect of the human existence, and every level of government. So it's amazing. It's been a great experience for me. I love it, frankly. I love it. I love the career.